Hello everybody. I'm here to talk to you today about using an interesting little lens on Sony A7 series mirrorless cameras. That lens is the Voigtlander 15mm f4.5 aspherical super Wide-Heliar. The lens is now discontinued, but can be obtained as new old stock for approximately $600 US, or second-hand on eBay for around the $400 mark. Remember, these prices may change. This is correct at the time of making this clip. So, what are we getting for our money? Well, let's look at the specifications. The mount is like a thread or L39, so you're going to need an adapter or even two adapters. I've gone the two adapter route, which is an L39 to Leica M mount, because I bought it to use it on a M mount film camera some years ago, and then on top of that I have got a Leica M mount to Sony E series adapter as well. If you wish, because the lens is totally manual, there is no information transmitted between it and the camera, just get yourself a simple L39 to Sony E adapter, and that'll make things a little bit easier. The angle of view is 110 degrees, which is enormous. It's rectilinear, which means you don't see any weird fisheye effects. The lens construction is 8 elements in 6 groups with one aspherical lens. Not bad. The number of aperture blades is 10, which should in theory give you lovely round bokeh, but this being a very, very wide lens with a modest wide open aperture, then you're probably not going to see that bokeh. The aperture range is f4.5 to f22 in half click stops. The minimum focusing distance is just shy of 30 centimeters or 11.75 inches, which makes playing with this lens perspective and things like that really, really interesting. The weight is 113 grams or 4 ounces. Diameter is 49.6 millimeters or 1.94 inches, and its length is a minuscule 30.7 millimeters or 1.2 inches. There's no filter thread. There is no way of mounting a filter to this lens at all, but there is a lens hood. It's a built-in tulip style. There is no rangefinder coupling either, but it shouldn't bother any people putting it on a Sony A7. The lens is very, very well made, up to Cosina's very high standards. It has a brass body, which gives it a very, very solid feel and a satisfying heft. The lens mount is metal, of course, as befitting this generation of cameras. The aperture ring, as is usual on rangefinder cameras, is located at the front of the lens, in front of the focusing ring. And this turns very nicely with half-stop clicks. Beautiful, beautiful action. I just can't help myself. I love holding it and twiddling. I can't help myself. I'm an absolute lens nut. The focusing action is very smooth and has an approximate 100-degree throw. And but in use, I found that I didn't tend to focus very much, use the focusing ring. What I did was use the hyperfocal distances to zone focus the lens. Because really, the short focal length means that the depth of field is huge, and this lens has a very clearly marked scale to enable zone focusing. And to give you an example of this, at an aperture of f8, everything from 0.5 of a meter to infinity is in focus. Yeah. Conversely, lovers of shallow depth of field should really be looking elsewhere. Let's have a look at the test results. Well, some years ago, Clint Eastwood made a film called The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and this lens is all three: good, bad, and ugly. The good comes when you use the lens as intended on a film rangefinder body. The bad is when you mount it on a digital micro four thirds body, which we're not covering in this video. And the ugly is when you put it on front of an 36 megapixel or larger full frame sensor. This lens is one of the worst I've ever had on a digital camera. Right from the get-go, there is obvious barrel distortion. Wide open, there is considerable vignetting, which has a very, very obvious magenta cast. No matter how far you stop down the lens, this will just not go away. Kind of like Mormon missionaries on a Saturday morning on your doorstep. Wide open, the centre sharpness is quite good, and remains so until f22, when diffraction rears its ugly head. The corners are smeared and out of focus, and things improve a little by f11, but they never get to the level of sharpness of the centre of the lens. Chromatic aberration is also present throughout the aperture range. However, in its favour, flare for such a wide lens is remarkably well controlled. And lovers of sun stars should be happy, as the 10 aperture blades produce quite attractive results. So why is this lens so bad on a digital camera? Well, the reasons for this are that the Voigtlander 15mm was designed for use with film. And the silver halide crystals in the film emulsion do not care at what angle light hits them to provide the necessary reaction to form the latent image. But with a digital sensor, it's a whole different ballgame, because the sensor is no longer just a gelatine substrate coated with an emulsion containing light-sensitive crystals. No, it is a complex sandwich of filters, lenses, and electronic componentry, as the accompanying schematics show. For best performance, the light needs to enter the micro lenses at 90 degrees. When the incidence of the light is severely off perpendicular, then not all of it reaches the pixel at the bottom of its well. And this can cause vignetting, smearing with loss of detail, and severe colour fringing. Well, okay, what's it like in actual use? For stills photography, the 15mm f4.5 could be a consideration on a Sony A7 series camera, if you don't have the current fixation of razor sharpness corner to corner, i.e. if the hero or subject of your shot is central to the frame and you don't mind a loss of sharpness at the edges. Working in monochrome helps get rid of the magenta cast on the edges as well. Having said that, the magenta cast and vignetting are removable in Lightroom, as we'll see. Okay, we open up our file in the development module and we immediately scroll down to the lens correction panel. Tick the enable profile corrections box, then select make, which is Voigtlander, and then select the model. You can see there's quite a long list of them, but this lens is there, the 15mm f4.5 Mark II, which this lens is. And you see straight away that a bit of a profile has been applied. We can click the remove chromatic aberration and immediately the image is looking a lot better, but it's still not right, and there's still some magenta cast there in the top corners you can see against the sky. So we go to the radial selection tool, and we adjust our circle to fit roughly the pattern of the fringing. And with this tool the inside will remain clear and the correction will appear on the outside of it. And then we alter the tint, and as the opposite of magenta is green, we slide the slider towards the green side. Don't go too far or you'll end up with a green tint in the corners as opposed to this. Looks close enough. Do a quick white balance on Doggy's head. Quick adjustment and we're away. Still haven't totally eliminated it. It's still there, but it's close enough. The main temptation with this lens is to try and use it for vlogging, but with the colour smearing on the edges and the corners, that's virtually impossible to eradicate it in post. So that makes it very, very difficult to use. Couldn't recommend it really for film use. So in conclusion, what can I say? Well, to be completely fair, we're demonstrating uses for this lens that it was never ever designed for. With film and optical chemical printing, it was a very good lens at a very cheap price. Up until this lens's introduction, it's the only other ultra-wide lens available in Leica M mount was made by Carl Zeiss. It was a 15mm f8. The problem bit was that Zeiss only made 225 of them, if my memory serves me correctly, and they are currently changing hands for in excess, for mint copies of $10,000 US. So you can see why when this lens was introduced it caused quite a stir. But when we come to look at this now in the digital imaging era, whether you use it for stills or video, it can't really be recommended unless you own it already and you are prepared to put up with its shortcomings. If you're looking for an ultra wide, there are better options available now, such as the new Sony ultra wide zoom. Or if you would rather have a prime and don't mind manual focusing, then the Laowa 15mm f2 0D lens is available in Sony E-mount, and it should be worth looking at. Okay, I hope you found this informative, and thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you shortly, and goodbye.